You're listening to the Abolitionist Roundtable, patriotic Black American conservatism, with your hosts, Del, Phil, and Janice, leading the charge in advancing the 4%. Join in the conversation at 734-822-1600.
And we are back. And we are getting a little bit of a delay with our guest this morning, but in the meantime, I just wanted to bring a little information about the top tier of the presidential candidates. What do we have now? 16, 15 candidates?
It's 16.
And if anybody ever said that the Republican Party lacked ideas, they need to take a look at this field. It is very talented. It is very innovative because
and very diverse.
They
can't talk about
diversity. Some of my favorites are
diverse.
I love Bobby Jindal. I love Scott Walker. Donald Trump is I've always had a few good feelings about Donald Trump. I was against some of his alliances. He was with Hillary Clinton on the what do you call it? The health care plan. The single payer. He's for single. For single. He said
he was
no
for
longer
nationalized health care.
And also for a number of years, and it's in his biography here that he was against. He was pro-choice for a number of years.
Yeah, now my understanding is that he had a legitimate, as far as I felt, reason to change. He said a friend of his was considering having his wife have an abortion, and his wife didn't want to have an abortion, so she had a child, and now his friend says that baby is the apple of his eye, and so Donald Trump saw in real life, real time, how important a child is, and how its life could have been snuffed away by an abortion. So that's when he claims to have changed his stance. Now, I'm a person that hasn't watched a lot of network television. Now, I understand he's been on television for a long time, and my friends tell me if I had watched his program, I would have a far different opinion of him than I have right now, because his ideology, his philosophy, his allegiances are all wrong. But his words right now are all right.
Well, looks like we have our guest on, so I'm going to turn it over to Janice, and good morning, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Good morning. Hi. So glad to be here. Sorry I'm a little late.
Oh, that's fine. We're really impressed with your accomplishments so far in your young life, and I'm looking forward to seeing you as a powerful political player for years to come, Wendy. I'm really impressed with what I see you doing at the grassroots level, and now at the national level. You're the state director of the Ted Cruz presidential campaign.
I am, and I'll tell you, it's been such a blessing to be in charge of this campaign here in Michigan and serving all of our wonderful field team across the state. It's awesome.
Well, now, Phil Stargell and Del Marsh, my co-hosts.
Yes.
And
good morning.
Good morning.
We'd love to get a little background on how you got that position. You must have met with Ted Cruz, and how did this come about, Wendy?
It really was by the grace of God.
Amen.
When I lost my primary election last year, it was devastating, and I had really prayed about it and given it to God, and the answer was no. And I had the amazing opportunity to meet Ted Cruz and actually have dinner with him last fall, and I got to ask him some questions, some open-ended questions about issues and messaging, and really they were open-ended, vague questions on purpose, and he answered everything exactly the way that I would have answered it. And I thought, gosh, we have a lot in common, and I started looking around at the presidential candidates, and, really, I'm a military wife. My husband's been deployed twice, and my son's deployed right now, and there is no one else that I trust more with my son and my husband. And so I started putting my resume out there because I still did want to work in politics, and for the last 5 years, I've spent working with families of soldiers who've died as a contractor with the Army, which has been one of the greatest honors of my life, but I was ready to move on and do something in politics. So I put my resume out there and just really, again, by the grace of God, Goliath, was being in the right place at the right time. I was asked by actually Saul and Newsis to come on board, and I had some other folks that were advocating for me, and it just worked out.
That's really great. We're very proud of you, Wendy. Indeed, Phil did a lot of good work developing some talking points or voting record points of various top-tier candidates. And I also, in that regard, have been looking at the website conservativereview.com, which I think is a really valuable website. So, we agree in theory that, first of all, Scott Walker is going to become a formidable campaign opponent of Ted Cruz's. Give us some thoughts about Scott Walker and why we should pick Ted Cruz instead of him.
Well, there's so many good candidates out there, and all of them have their strengths and weaknesses. And what I love about Ted Cruz is he has welcomed everybody to the race. He has talked about what they bring to the race, and indeed, every one of them brings unique strengths. I think Scott Walker was in the right place at the right time for right to work to be passed, and that's great. And he did. People, when they tried to recall him, people stood up and defended him, and I love that. It was fun to watch that. I know we felt a kindred spirit with Wisconsin over that. I guess I can't really say, if there's a reason why not to vote for Scott Walker. I mean, if people like him and research his, Red State had an interesting article about him, but if people, research his history and find that he's their candidate, then that's okay. But what I can say about Senator Cruz is that he is, not only has he been in Washington, but he been in Washington and not gotten sucked into the cartel, but he also has actively fought for our rights before the Supreme Court 9 times for religious liberty, U.S. sovereignty, Second Amendment rights, and he has proven that he not only can raise the money because he's been a top money raiser out of our conservative candidates, but he also has a proven record of standing strong once he gets to Washington, and I think that's very important. And he hasn't wavered. You're not going to find a bunch of articles that say he was this, then he was this, he was this, then he was this. He hasn't wavered. The only thing he's changed his mind on is something, Janice, you and I talked about, which was TPA, and that's because he got better information and listened. And what I love about the way he handled that was because when he saw something, when he got new information and listened to the public, he paid attention and changed his position, and I think that's great. I love that.
That is, that's an honorable thing to do. None of us are perfect. That's certainly true, and Ted Cruz is among one of us fallen humans. And so, I agree. I think that's admirable that he took a stand and then became educated and then changed his mind and openly admitted it. I don't have a real problem with that, especially when I see how strong he is. And he has a voting record to back things up. It's one thing to talk to somebody and have them say all the right things. It's another thing to have somebody have a voting record that is as consistently conservative as Ted Cruz's voting record.
Well, that's right. And it really, to me, it's all about, again, the best conservative we can get that can actually get elected. And I think people are really surprised by Senator Cruz's ability to fundraise. I mean, he has $53 million or $54 million, and that's a very strong showing. Stronger, like I said, he's in third place overall from candidates on both sides of the aisle. And among the conservative candidates, he is way out in front. So, he's used to being an underdog. He's okay with that. And I think the other reason I think Senator Cruz is going to be a great president is because if you've watched any interviews with him, he has been flawless in his interviews. He has owned every interview he's done, and he's gone on MSNBC, PBS, CNN, Katie Couric. I mean, he's not shied away from those interviews, and he's went on to own every single one of them.
Right. He's very articulate, and he's very grounded.
Yes.
Real quickly, is there any particular group in the Senate or that Senator Cruz sort of goes with, like McCain and Lindsey Graham and
well, none of those guys.
Thank you.
Right. But see, that's
McCain
one of the
called
things
him a
that
wacko bird.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I liked about him. I'd never seen him go along with a group of senators and things like that. He seemed to have blazed his own path, and a lot of the senators seem to have a little animosity toward him. Have you noticed that?
Of course. Mike Lee is someone that has stood by his side, and they've been kind of buddies. But you know what? When you come and stand against the Washington cartel, it is in the fire. I mean, I served on a school board in Howell from 2006 to 2010, and I was the only conservative on the board when I got on. And I know what that was like. And I can't imagine being in the U.S. Senate and really being hated just for telling the truth and asking good questions and not going along to get along. It's an immense pressure. But that's what people are going to have to be able to do, stand strong in that kind of pressure to be able to save our country, really. It has to be someone who's been there. And I know a lot of folks say, well, we need a governor. Well, I love our governor. I love our gubernatorial candidates, and they bring a lot to the table. But to me, just as important is being tested and true in Washington, D.C., which is a whole other ballgame than your home state.
Yeah, one of the things that happens about the Senate, whenever a vote is cast, whenever you make a vote, there are alliances in there that right away start to try to paint you into a corner as being rigid or whatever. And that's the reason why it has been traditionally very hard to elect senators. One of the reasons why the president is the president now is because he was able to take votes and say things like present instead of taking a stand. And for the life of me, I cannot understand how the people of this country would put someone in that particular office that refused to take a stand on so many occasions. And that's why, to me, Senator Cruz is such an attractive candidate, because he lets you know where he stands, and he's taking the arrows. I mean, he's taking them from many, many sources.